Precious Mzea Sakaleji, good afternoon and welcome to Camnet TV Midday News. The headlines. Poverty is compromising the stance of the church, claims CCMG. The F.I.C. justifies delays in releasing the financial trends report. Join me with the Midday News in detail after this commercial.
Mr. President, allow me to thank you as a grandmother left with huge responsibility. The social cash transfer that you have been giving us goes a long way. At least I can afford to buy my beautiful grandchildren school supplies. We thank your poor government for supporting more vulnerable citizens like me as our president for the next 5 years.
May I please have 1 beer and 2 glasses?
Do you have champagne? Yes.
Hold that thought. No champagne, just for the month.
Oh
you know
God.
we gotta keep on texting R to 9595.
I'm sick and tired of this R9595.
You stand a chance of your lifetime to win a brand new 2020 Range Rover Evoque when you text R to 9595. From as little as 5 kwacha, you get 1 entry. 10 kwacha for 3 entries, and 20 kwacha will give you a whopping 7 entries. There will also be daily and weekly consolation prizes up for grabs. That's great news, right? Competition runs from 12th of May to 31st of August 2021 and is only open to Zamtel subscribers. Terms and conditions apply.
Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
And now the media news in detail. Political scientist Musiani Sichone has called on civil society organizations to take up the responsibility of educating citizens on how to become active in the political landscape, as this will help them contribute positively to the country's development. Speaking in an interview with Camnet TV News, Mr. Sichone states that it is the responsibility of civil society organizations to teach Zambians to take active roles in the political landscape. Meanwhile, Movement for Promoting National Values and Principles Chief Executive Officer Jose Kunda says there is a need for women to start supporting each other rather than criticizing and bringing each other down.
Back then, a woman's role was considered to be within the home. Public life, including politics, was widely seen as for men only. It was believed that women involved in politics would neglect their responsibilities at home. Over the years, there has been progress toward the participation of women in politics, with more advocates and laws put in place to ensure equal representation. However, women's representation at national level still stands low. In March 2021, the Non-Governmental Coordinating Organization Committee in Mongo, through its coordinator Sandra Maputa, had bemoaned the low levels of women participation in politics in the country. She had cited the Zambia National Assembly statistics which showed that only 26 females were members of parliament, representing 16%. Different stakeholders are now coming on board, calling for more participation of women in politics.
Enough sensitization to actually make women embrace these decision-making roles and also actively compete in different election and different positions in the political landscape. But it is the sole responsibility of civil society organizations to teach the Zambian citizens at large, not only females but also males, to take active roles within the political landscape. And therefore, I call upon civil society organizations to not only become active in times of elections like we are having now. We call upon them to be very, very active and to teach women, okay, to become active participants in the political landscape. So not only in times like this when we have elections, we need the civil society to take up seriously what their sole responsibility is.
Meanwhile, some stakeholders feel there's need for women to build each other if the country is to witness massive participation of women in politics.
Candidates, both male and female, 50% if possible, 50% of the candidates, there's been that. However, we should mention that this hasn't been achieved. It has just remained a rhetorical program, just mere pronouncements. Very few political political parties of the 16 participating in the elections have fielded enough women to feature. So mentioned that it's quite unfortunate because we expect that women should support their fellow women. But the trend that has been taking place in our country is totally different, because you find even in a scenario where women are adopted, very few women would vote for them. Instead, men are even able to vote for women as compared to women voting for their fellow women. Women don't seem to be supportive to their fellow women, and we hope to see change. We have a lot of organizations and institutions that are advocating for equity.
Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
In other news, the Financial Intelligence Center F.I.C. has revealed that it will in 2021 release a document dubbed the Typologies Report in place of the annual Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Trend Report that is released every year around May. F.I.C. Director Mary Chira revealed this to Camnet TV News in a phone interview. Meanwhile, Republican Progressive Party RPP President Leslie Chikose has charged that it is pointless for the F.I.C. and other similar institutions to continue releasing reports yearly when no action is taken against the perpetrators.
Every year, citizens await the latest money laundering and terrorist financing report from the Financial Intelligence Center F.I.C. The F.I.C., which was established in 2010, is commissioned to play an active role in fighting money laundering, financing terrorism, and other financial crimes. Its mandate is to educate the public on money laundering, among other illegal financial flows. According to the latest F.I.C. Trends Report of 2019, the country is reported to have lost 450 million kwacha to money laundering and illicit financial flows by politicians and high-ranking government officials. This year, the F.I.C. has reviewed that the country should expect a new document dubbed the Typologies Report in place of the annual Financial Trends Report. F.I.C. Director Mary Chira, in a phone interview, has reviewed that once the document is shared with the Anti-Corruption Commission (SEC) and the Zambia Revenue Authority (ZRA), it will be released to the public.
This time around, we have a specific document that we are preparing for ZRA and anti-corruption. It's a management document that we share with the two institutions before we can publish it on our website. The Typologies Report.
However, President of the Republican and Progressive Party RPP Leslie Chikuse says it is pointless for the F.I.C. to continue releasing reports as little or no action has been done so far on previous reports.
Even in the last F.I.C. report, there were a lot of irregularities in terms of financial transactions, in terms of financial mismanagement, and that up to today, the police, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and all other agencies have not been able to bring to book the perpetrators that were found wanting in the F.I.C. report.
There has been ongoing debate among stakeholders that to actualize the fight against corruption, bodies like the F.I.C. should be given prosecution powers, as they have been seen as toothless since they cannot act on their findings. Zipporah Mushala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Christian Churches Monitoring CCMG group has observed that the reason why some clergymen and the church are being compromised is due to poverty. CCMG chairperson Emmanuel Chikoya says a poverty-stricken church is vulnerable and a scandal to the world. He says as the country goes to the polls, churches must not be used as campaign grounds and politicians should not be given a microphone to speak. And the Christian Churches Monitoring Group has urged the police to ensure zero tolerance to violence. Father Chikoya notes that if cadres are allowed to continue acting with impunity, it will be difficult for the country to control violence.
The country has continued to witness incidents of political violence despite various interventions to discourage the vice. The Christian Churches Monitoring Group, CCMG, has urged the police to have zero tolerance on violence. CCMG chairperson Father Emmanuel Chikoya notes that If cadres are allowed to continue acting with impunity, it will be difficult for the country to control violence. He was speaking when he featured on the Alliance for Community Action Elections Watch TV series program on Camnet TV.
If you are in the ruling party and these things are happening, every day we hear feeble condemnations. We condemn violence. We are fed up of these condemnations. Those that are given the mandate to govern this country should rise up and just say enough is enough. It is actually, you don't need to defend a lion, if I may use that analogy in the case of the police. Allow them to be police. You know, those days when the Hero Barretts came into Kanyama, they came into Chiwodia on an operation cleanup, you knew that discipline had come. And guns will be fished out. All kinds of things will be fished out.
And Father Chikoya has advised churches to stop investing their faith in politicians, but in Jesus Christ.
As clergy, let's not get excited with gifts. One of the greatest challenges that I see with the church, in many churches, you start huge church projects and yet you don't have the money. And your faith is in the politician. The faith of the church must be in Jesus Christ. We must plan over a reasonable period. We must make sure every member, regardless of how small they can give, contribute to that bigger agenda and budget. And within a certain period, you will be able to have your church. You'll be able to have that project.
It says the church must start investing to become self-reliant.
One of the greatest weaknesses that compromises the church, and many of us as clergymen and women, is poverty. And a poverty-stricken church is a scandal to the world and a vulnerable church. So a church must self-propagate, a church must self-govern, a church must be self-sustainable. This is an agenda that is godly. We should pray, but invest. You can invest in Airtel, you can invest in NAPSA and all other entities. It's high time we woke up as church. We have prayed enough, we have stepped on the spirit of poverty, and it's not going anywhere as long as we are remaining and we are stuck to one source of income. And so that is one of the areas I think that compromises. And at the end of the day, when you have a compromised religious sector, it can have an impact in terms of the credibility of election.
Then what is that? Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Principal nutritionist at the National Food and Nutrition Commission, Ida Chaba, has called on HIV-positive lactating mothers to follow the guidelines on HIV prevention from mother to child. In an interview with Camnet TV News, Chama explains that following the various interventions, it has become possible for an HIV-positive woman to have a child who is born without the virus.
According to UNAIDS, an estimated 1.5 million individuals worldwide acquired HIV in 2020, marking a 30% decline in new HIV and AIDS infections since 2010. In 2020, 84% of pregnant women tested positive with HIV and are receiving ART to prevent transmitting HIV to their children during pregnancy, childbirth, and to protect their own health. This has prompted Principal Nutritionist at the National Food and Nutrition Commission, Ida Chama, to call on HIV and AIDS lactating mothers to emulate the medical guidelines regarding infants born when their parents have tested positive.
For the recommendation for the feeding of the children who are exposed to HIV, what we are saying that every child, regardless whether they are HIV positive or they are exposed to HIV, born from mothers who are HIV positive, they are supposed to be initiated early within the first hour of birth to the breast. And thereafter they should continue exclusive breastfeeding that child up to the age of 6 months.
Ms. Chama has also stated that parents should be able to provide diet suitable for the child regardless of their status.
Once when the child attains the age of 6, you introduce the complementary foods, and these complementary foods should go all the way. You continue breastfeeding as well as giving the other foods up to 1 year, that is 12 months. So at 12 months, that's where now as a parent, a caregiver and a mother, we need to decide whether we are going to continue breastfeeding or not,
Despite these challenges, there has been successes and promising signs. New global efforts have been mounted to address the epidemic, particularly in the last decade. Blessings Shakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Well, that news item brings us to the end of Camnet TV Midday News, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. Poverty is compromising the stance of the church, claims CCMG. The F.I.C. justifies delays in releasing the financial trends report. That is all. Thank you for joining me. I am Precious Mzeya Sakaleji. Remember to always wear your mask, avoid crowded places, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Stay safe. COVID is real. Good afternoon.